Okay, this one is about a bit more detailed look at the Book of Daniel, which I think is one of the weak points in the whole religious story. And there's been some good research done that shows, I think, pretty clearly that the Book of Daniel is a false prophecy. So it's a situation where the author has written their book, and they've written the book after the events that had occurred. So it's a forgery, a prophecy. So rather than be a God's word or an angel talking to a human and giving them a prediction of future events, this is the hand of a human that's actually forging the prophetic event. And the really interesting thing about the Book of Daniel is that it's the book that we are first introduced to an angel called Gabriel. Now, if it's true, and I'm damn sure it is, if it's true that this is a forged work of forgery, then it must follow that this angel Gabriel is a work of make-believe. And that has a significant impact on the religion of Islam, because its whole foundation is that God, through the angel Gabriel, spoke to Muhammad and delivered the Quran. Well, that can't be possible if this book is a forgery. So what I'm going to do now is just play, so you'll just get an audio feed from a course run by Yale University. So the religious folk can't use the typical excuse of Wikipedia as being a bad source, because we're talking about you now got to defeat the work of historians at the level of Yale University. So let's listen. What we're going to be listening to is we'll be listening to the matching of the events that are recorded in the Book of Daniel with the actual history. And they all terminate at 160 BC, or and that can be proven as well. So let's go.
Okay. If you've got your Bibles, take it out and turn with me first to Daniel chapter 8, verse 20. Now, the book of Daniel is in two halves. The first half of it tells about the adventures of this young man, Daniel, who's very, very wise and very smart and very loyal, and who refuses to worship the Persian god. And of course, these are morality stories written for Jews who are living under Greek domination, encouraging them not to worship Greek gods. But it's cast in the distant past. Then the second half of Daniel is a whole series of visions and prophecies. And Daniel says, I was in a dream, I was in a vision on the day, and I saw this, and this angel told me this, and this person told me this. And so it's the narration of the history of humankind, that's part of which has already happened by Daniel, but most of which has happened in the future for Daniel. And some of this stuff actually does happen. So, for example, and he tells about different beasts. There's the ram that does this. There's the beast that does this. But you know that these beasts represent different kingdoms. Because in chapter 8, verse 20, he says, as for the ram that you saw in your vision, with the two horns, these are the kings of Media and Persia. Okay, there was the king of the Medes and the king of the Persians who came together under Cyrus. The male goat is the king of Greece. And the great horn between its eyes is the first king. So that would be Philip, Alexander's father. As for the horn that was broken, in place of which four others arose, 4 kingdoms shall arise from his nation, but not with his power. This is Alexander. He's broken, and his kingdom is divided into 4 empires, like I told you about earlier. But none of those 4 empires enjoys the same power that Alexander the Great enjoyed with his. So notice how you're already given a clue right here in Daniel that these different images, these different beasts, are to refer to kingdoms that are going to come in the future from Daniel's perspective. We know actually that they already did. Then what happens in Daniel is each different chapter, the last part of Daniel, in a sense, tells the story over again. He has another vision. And instead of reading it chronologically, as if chapter 9 told about one century, and then chapter 10 or chapter 11 is the next century, and the next century, you actually have to read them like cycles. Because what Daniel's doing is he's giving you a prophecy of what's going to happen politically related to Judea, but he's giving it to you in several different visions that all tell the same story, just in different kind of symbols. So turn over now to chapter 11.
That's chapter 11 of the book of Daniel.
Here again, it's sort of like the fourth, chapter 11, verse 2. The fourth shall be far richer than all of them. When he has become strong through his riches, he shall stir up all against the kingdom of Greece. So this is actually talking about the Persian ruler who will attack Greece. Then a warrior king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion. That's Alexander. While still rising in power, Alexander, remember, was still young and increasing his power when he died. His kingdom shall be broken and divided to the four winds of heaven, but not to his posterity. Alexander had a child. The child died. Alexander's kingdom did not go to any of his own offspring. It went to these other four generals. Then notice in verse 5, then the king of the south shall grow strong. And the next verse, the daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north to ratify the agreement. Okay, what's the king of the south? Who's the king of the south? Ptolemy. Some Ptolemy. One of the Ptolemies. So whenever you see king of the south in Daniel, it's always referring to the Ptolemaic dynasty, one of the Ptolemies. Who's the king of the north? Seleucus or Antiochus. So whenever you see the king of the north, it refers to one of the Seleucids. So over and over again in Daniel, you're going to get the king of the north, the king of the south, the king of the north. And notice how it says, the daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north to ratify the agreement. And if you look at, if you have a study Bible and you look at your footnotes, it'll actually give you the names of these different people that historians can identify. So like, oh, this may be Berenice because we know that she was a daughter of Antiochus and Seleucus. She was married to one of these Ptolemies. If you follow in your study Bible, and it has to be a good critical study Bible. I mean, if you by real scholars, if you use these Bibles that take all this as prophecy that relates to the Soviet Union or to Russia, they might tell you things like, well, the king of the north here refers to the head of the Politburo or something like this, and so if it's a Bible by a contemporary church that takes all this referring to our time or the time of the future, which of course a lot of Christians do, then their footnotes might be different. But the footnotes in any good study Bible will place these people to the history of what's going on in Judea at this time. Now go over to chapter 11, verse 29. Because I'm not going to lead you through all the stuff that happens in chapter 11, because if you read it and you read it with the footnotes, it's basically telling you a history of the battles and alliances between the Seleucids and the Ptolemies, and where Judea was caught in the middle at different times. At the time appointed, he shall return and come into the south. This is this is Antiochus, not Antiochus IV, but this time it shall not be as before, for ships of Kittim shall come against him, and he shall lose heart and withdraw. Who are the Kittim? Romans, exactly. The Kittim is a term that's used in Hebrew in a lot of different ancient Jewish texts, and sometimes it seems to refer to the Greeks. And here it clearly refers to the Romans, because the Romans come and they force the king of the north back. Notice what it says. Forces sent by him, he shall turn back and pay heed to those who forsake the holy covenant. Antiochus IV will pay attention to the Jews who've forsaken the Torah. Forces sent by him shall occupy and profane the temple and the fortress. They shall abolish the regular burnt offering and set up the abomination that makes desolate. Or in some modern English translations, like the abomination of desolation. That term will be used also in the New Testament in several places. He shall seduce with intrigue those who violate the covenant, that is, the bad Jews who violated the Torah. It will be in cahoots with Antiochus. But the people who are loyal to their God shall stand firm and take action. The wise among the people shall give understanding to many, and for some days, however, they shall fall by sword and flame and suffer captivity and plunder. Who are the wise? The author of the book. Remember, he spent the whole first part of the book setting up Daniel as a wise man. So this author writing in the name of Daniel, a wise man, identifies other wise Jews of his own day. And he says they're going to oppose Antiochus IV, and some of them will die because of it. When they fall victim, they shall receive a little help, and many shall join them insincerely. Some scholars believe that this little help may be this author's reference to Judas Maccabeus. And maybe he knows that there is an armed resistance, and it's a little bit of help. But he doesn't believe himself that the answer to Antiochus IV is going to be an armed revolt. He believes that it's not going to ultimately succeed. Why? Because God's going to be the one who will intervene, not Judas Maccabeus. The king shall act as he pleases. He shall exalt himself, consider himself greater than any god. Remember, Antiochus Epiphanes, God manifest, and shall speak horrendous things against the God of gods. He shall prosper until the period of wrath is completed, for what is determined shall be done. He shall pay no respect to the gods of his ancestors, or to the one beloved by women. He shall pay no respect to any other god. He shall consider himself greater than all, blah, 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 blah. So it's all about setting himself up. Now look, he shall come into the beautiful land, obviously we're talking about Judea, and tens of thousands shall fall victim, but Edom and Moab and the main part of the Ammonites shall escape from his power. He shall stretch forth his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. In other words, Antiochus IV this time is actually going to capture Egypt, he's predicting. He shall become ruler of the treasures of gold and silver, and all the riches of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall follow in his train. Not only will he overrun Egypt, he's going to go west of Egypt and take Libya, and south of Egypt and take Ethiopia. But reports from the east and the north shall alarm him, and he shall go out with great fury to bring ruin and complete.
Right. I'm not sure that he's actually right. And that's a Yale professor or a doctor. And there is a part, if you go and read up on Antiochus IV, there is a mention of him actually taking Egypt and setting up, say, wars against Egypt. The guardians of King Ptolemy IV of Egypt demanded the return of Syria in 170 BC, so that's pre the 7-year period of the Maccabean rebellion, but Antiochus launched a preemptive strike against Egypt, conquering all but Alexandria and capturing King Ptolemy. So there is a historical record. I'm not sure why he discounts that as a possible match for the the saying in the book of Daniel. And also there's a passage called the 77s, which, if you know anything about what sevens means biblically, it's based on a thing called a jubilee. A jubilee is was first mentioned in Leviticus, and it's a 50-year period made up of 7 by 7 years plus 1 year, sort of like a fallow year, and that's the Jubilee year. But come forward in time, the Book of Jubilees, which is written around about the same time the Book of Daniel was written, which is 160, I say it's 160 BC, 150 BC, you get the way the Jubilee is expressed in that book. They forget about the 50th year. They only mention the 7 by 7. But you can use that to interpret a passage called the 77s in the book of Daniel. And you can actually precisely mark a starting point and an end point, and the end point is 160 BC. The battle lasted till 160 BC. It ran for 6.3 years, which is 2,300 days and nights. So I'm pretty confident that the author of the Book of Daniel knew all events up to and including 160 BC. And because the Jubilees is used using the 49-year calendar, I'm pretty confident that that's evidence that says it was written in 160 BC. Now, Yale University will give you a date of 164 BC. Either way, it's not really that important. I thought, I like to push the envelope to get a, what makes the most sense. But either way, both my position and the Yale position clearly say that the Book of Daniel is a forgery, and it's faking prophecy by reporting events after the fact, post-mortem. And I think it's one of our strongest cases, strongest positions against religions, particularly given how well it maps to the history of the period. And if it's a fabrication, well, then what it means is that it has dramatic flow-on effect, because if that's a false writing, which I'm very confident it is, then it follows that the book, that Angel Gabriel is a fake. It can't be anyway. It's not possible that that isn't the follow-on effect. You don't make a forgery deliberately trying to impress on a population that, it's God prophesying when it's not. You don't do that and then all of a sudden swing around and tell something truthful about angels. That's just impossible. So that means, of course, the flow-on effects are that Christianity is a sham because it uses the Angel Gabriel down the track, and Islam is a sham because it's a fundamental part of Islam that God spoke through this Angel Gabriel, same one by the way, and delivered this heavenly message that's without error, and that's the Quran. It's just not possible. Couldn't have happened. Anyway, that's hello gentlemen, that was it. I've finished getting that sort of recorded. What's up?
I just saw the Hangouts today, and I unfortunately
couldn't hear you, mate. You'll have to try again.
you're gonna need lockers and echo.
Hey?
I can't hear.
Hang on, echo. All right, just wait a minute. I'll just see if I can mute myself. Hey, I just muted myself.
Okay, it's gone now. I said I missed out on 2 of your Hangouts earlier, and that's why I popped in.
Warn me. Yeah, I'm interested in catching up with what's his name? Vladimir.
Oh, do you want to talk to Vladimir or something?
Yes.
Yeah, let me see if I can find his Google Plus account and try to send him a message on that. Looks like. Then have to do a search on Google Plus.
Yeah, because I know, with no doubt whatsoever, that he was the guy that drove past my house. Sandra actually looked at the, because that upsets her a bit, which annoys me. But she went and had a look at that particular video, and she found a part where the guy had said, "Come outside," when he was just driving past. So I know for sure that that dude drove past my house with a camera pointed at my house. So I really want to have a chat to him. I mean, it doesn't bother me now, but I find it more intriguing. I want to find out what motivates him and how he came to decide to do that. And I want to put a bit of pressure on him to sort of to just be honest. Because see, it's all part of this whole caper, this bursting of belief bubbles. It means that he's doing that for entertainment, I guess. Well, that's my guess at the moment, but I won't know until he tells me. But I'm just curious about that mindset. I know it's the selfish mindset, because there's lies and ego and all of that involved. So it's all part of the same problem. So I look at it as a bit of an opportunity. So yeah, I want to have a chat to the guy. What else is happening?
Well, I think you make a pretty valid point, though. I think that we definitely need to get him over here. So if he is watching, I hope he pops in, because I'd like to get this resolved as well. He needs to explain his intentions, I guess.
My guess is, all right, that they're just simplistic, like it's entertainment, like trolling. Like what Sty used to do. But I'm interested to get the guy over the bullshit stuff, the trying to hide the story, get past that and just talk to the guy about what motivates him to do it, why he does it. I've got some ideas on what I think it is. And I want to see if there's a way to convince him not to do it, because here's the facts, right? The facts of the matter, and I know this to be sure. It's not a good thing in life to live a lie, even if you think it's just a joke, because once you embed that lie into or once you enact that lie, right? Once it becomes a real thing, you're stuck with it. You just are. It's the way life works. Your brain doesn't ever get rid of it, particularly if you're getting your kicks out of hurting someone else. And it leaves you with one more item to deal with before you can sort of mature into a proper human being. Now, I know for 110% that that's the way that shit works. So yeah, probably in a sense I'm trying to save the guy some heartache, because he looks like a young bloke. I listened to one of his little spiels. He seems like a bit of a righteous young fella, but he wasn't on song. It was very emotional, his little rant that he did. So, I'd be encouraging to, not give up his principles or his debates, but do some bloody homework and do some research and get better informed. Things like that.
From what I know, from what I've heard him talk about himself before, I don't know if it's true, but he claims that he's Lebanese. So I don't know what factor that plays into his religion or what beliefs he may or may not have.
Well, it's dangerous because the Lebanese dudes they're liable to kill you. They're potentially a crazy lot, or some of them, not all Lebanese, of course. But I called him a Muslim, but I was trying to wind him up. But I knew the accent. The accent did sound familiar, so Lebanon makes sense.
Yeah, I think from what he said, that I've heard him talk to other people as a bystander, kind of like Scaff is right now, and he had mentioned that he lived in Lebanon up until he was 6 or 7 or something. So, are they very common in Australia, Rob? Like, are they a big demographic there, or what's going on down there with that?
Not so sure. I'm not so sure how big they are in Melbourne. I think they're big in Sydney, certainly. And you quite often hear of troubles within that community. I'll probably I'll probably have them all come around and beat me up. But again, well, that makes it more interesting. I would have thought Lebanese people would have had a strong religious aspect to their culture, so that makes it more interesting to me to see if how he sits there. But I mean, I'm sure that, because I haven't been on the internet for quite a while, I'm sure that I'm probably not the only one. But so he must be doing it to other people. And I saw Bulldog, John May, made some very bad comments about some woman that he must have been having a bit of an argument with, which I didn't like at all. What did he say? So I don't know whether there seems to be a bit of an argument going on between Trollolin and Bulldog. Now, Bulldog said, "Where is that F word, skank?" Now, I know what that behaviour is. What he's trying to do is he's trying to get a rise, or he's trying to say something that gets a reaction. That's a very bad behaviour. So if this guy is doing the same, well, yeah, I take a bit of issue with that. But I don't want to sort of, I'm not his father, but I'm just curious. I want to have that man-to-man sort of discussion with him. Try and understand why he does it. Oh, hey, I tell you, I found something which intrigued me greatly. Just as it's a little like one of those little potentially aha moments. There's a saying in the Gospel of Thomas, which I call the Gospel of Jesus, that says, the kingdom of the Father isn't in the sky. So if your leaders say that to you, they're pulling your leg. It's not in the sea. But it says, when you know yourself. And I thought, that's key. That's got to be key to this problem. Are you in the garden, were you?
Yeah, earlier I was.
Gardening?
Yeah, I grow tomatoes, but the season for that over here is pretty well done with, so I was clearing them out today.
Okay. Now, this saying here, what Jesus, now, not magical Jesus, don't believe in that bullshit. but I do hold that he was a real fella. When you know yourself, I think that's key to the question of how do you break through a belief. So what I was thinking, it's sort of like holding up the mirror to someone. Yeah. Right, so you hold the mirror up to someone and they get a chance to say, oh shit, that really is me. Understand? No, I'm not talking God somewhere. But I think that's the key to bursting the belief bubble. You have to get an individual to see so this comes back to the two wolves story, which I find to be very, very accurate about humans. Part of the maturity process is that as we go through life, we tend to develop these ideas, notional ideas in our head about ourselves, and I call that the ego. And the enlightenment journey is about confronting that ego reality and dealing with the notional ideas that are false. And one of the techniques that people use when they're trying to educate someone that's immature is they do role reversal. Or, so they give the person to sort of, it's like stepping outside of themselves and seeing the actual behaviours or looking at them in a different way. Well, it turns out with religious folks, and I guess Dan, I want to try this, so we need a religious person. Are you there? So anyway, what I'm thinking of is actually saying up front what certain behaviours will emerge, because I don't think they're avoidable. It's one thing about the ego mind, it can't control itself. And then getting that person at the point that they actually... Oh, hello. Anyway, so it's saying up front that you will lose your cool, because I think that can be manufactured with a believing mind. And who it is? Kizumi. Any of you folks religious?
No.
No. Lady? No, okay. Well, if you know some religious folks, I've got a little exercise I'd like to run by them. And the theory goes like this. I hold the view that religion is really just a thought inside in a person's mind, and it's a thought that has no basis in reality. So, I'd call that the ego mind. And what I'm thinking is, if you can present an interesting enough case, I think also that the human mind seems to be able to identify a real threat. If you present an interesting case, you can actually create certain behaviours, and that I'm suggesting that they're not controllable. The person can't control themselves, a believing person. If, and it's an experiment, if we can get someone in the room that's a believer, let them know that these are the things, behaviours that are going to be witnessed, and I can be specific about what they are. I'm wondering what impact that will have on the person. It's just an experiment. I mean, they're protected by God, right? So can't do any harm. I hold the view that, you know, once you get dealing with ego or ego minds, is a positive experience. Someone else talk. No, you're quiet, people. Kazumi, what brings you here?
Down said that you were back and wanted to talk with me.
Oh, okay. So I was after a guy called Vladimir. Is that you?
No, I'm not Vladimir.
Okay. What's your backstory? Oh, sorry. Do you do hangouts often?
I used to do them a lot more often, but I haven't done them as much anymore. But
What's your interest with this hangout sphere?
just general chit chat. I mean, I used to do the great debate, which there's nothing really that great about. But um, I I usually just enjoy the ones where people are just shooting the shit, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What was the great debate about?
Well, I mean, it's you know, the whole atheism versus theism. Oh, and it's just like it just usually devolves into the same shit over and over again, you know.
Yes, I do. I agree 100%. I kind see the way I look at it. To me, religion is a major problem um, across our world. Has been and is getting worse. It annoys me to sit in on a discussion where there's no target or no, you're not going to achieve anything. You're just banging heads, and I see that so often. Intellectual people, yeah, fine, all got good arguments, all great, but nothing happens. There's no change. And I mean, I, uh, I, I've done a fair bit of research, and I'm 100% sure that religions are what I'd call cults of personality. They exist for a very specific reason. And
I just look at it as, I mean, we're kind of hardwired to be superstitious because it's what allowed us to survive in the past, you know, because we need to be able to find patterns sometimes where they may not initially seem to exist, but sometimes that ability is what allowed us to survive, you know, more in the wild and things like that. And so, you know, we have this desire to connect with something that's of a superstitious nature.
yeah, I'd put it this way. I'd just say that we're scared of dying, and we just need a story to help us deal with that thought.
Yeah, there's that. There's definitely that. Hey, Vlad.
Yo.
Hey, Vlad, I hear you're a Lebanese man.
Who?
You're a Lebanese guy.
No.
Well, that's what I was told.
Do I sound like I'm Lebanese or Australian?
Lebanese.
I sound like I'm Lebanese.
Yeah.
The hell? What does a Lebanese sound?
Hey.
What does a Lebanese sound like?
Well, you just listen to yourself.
No, that's the first time I heard of that.
Actually, Dan told me that you were Lebanese.
Oh, did he? Oh.
Now, I've got a question for you.
Rightio. Shoot!
Yeah. Now, will you promise not to lie?
Why?
Well, now I know you're guilty, but I knew already, right?
What?
But I wanted to get past the crap, and I wanted you just to be an honest person for a moment.
I'm an honest person.
Okay.
I'm an honest person.
Okay. So you promise not to lie?
Huh?
Do you promise not to lie?
Why?
Well, hey, you're an honest person. That should mean that you never lie, shouldn't it?
I don't know. Should it?
Oh, it's a question. So, do you promise not to lie?
I promise not to lie. Well, I don't know. Well, it depends.
Oh dear. Now, I'm trying to help you here, buddy. It's not a good thing to go through. Hang on, wait a minute. It's not a good thing to go through life. I mean this sincerely, right? It's not a good thing to go through life as a liar. It just isn't. No.
Well, there are sometimes situations where to save your own life or to save someone else's life, that lying would be the thing that you do if you care about the other person.
I agree with that, actually. That's a good comment. Now, this might rattle your cages, people, but I actually believe that there was a real Jesus. And he had a cautioning for, no magic, of course, but he had a saying. He said, Jesus said, the Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. So that means that they could show you the path to enlightenment, but they're not letting you know. They have not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to do so. As for you, be as sly as snakes and as simple as doves. So what he's clearly saying there is that when you're in a situation where you're dealing with a bad person, or a person that's trying to take the mickey or advantage, you do have to be quite careful, and I think he's sort of suggesting that yes, there are situations where you can lie. So I agree with that comment, but it's got to be a justifiable situation. What I'm talking about, though, is lies where it's deceitful to another person, like you're running a scam or something like that, and you knowingly do that for your own pleasure. Those sort of lies are lies that stick with you for life, and you find yourself in old age having to reconcile them for peace of mind. So it's that type of lie that I'm talking about. So, Vladimir, you going to promise not to lie?
Yeah. What's going on?
No. I want a clear answer, yes or no.
What?
Will you promise not to lie?
Oh, no one can promise that.
Well, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes,
You can promise it, you can't keep it.
No, I can keep it as well.
How can you prove it?
Well, I don't have to prove it. We're talking about you.
But that's the thing with lying.
Okay?
You don't know. You know what I mean?
What's that?
That's the thing with lying. You just don't know.
Yes, you do.
How?
Lie is a lie. Oh, just a minute, guys. Phone. Hello. Hello? Where are you from?
I'd like to show you the electricity under 70%
No, that was just one of those nuisance calls. Sorry, what was that?
No, just nothing.
Shooting the breeze. So, I'd like to ask you a series of questions, right? And I want to know whether you will be honest in your answers to those questions.
I'm good, aren't I? What?
I don't know. What's that mean? I don't understand that.
What do you mean? You want me to ask serious questions? This is fucking...
No. I just want to ask you a series that's more than one questions, and I want to know if you will commit to being honest in your answers.
Don't know.
Yeah. So we can stop there. Now, down. Did you see that? Right. Now, he and I both know. We really do. Whether he'll admit it or not. He and I both know certain things that occurred yesterday, and my wife looked at the video and she picked up something, and I got to tell you, Vlad, you know what you did was upsetting to my wife, and that upsets me, right? But don't go all defensive. Don't go down that track. I don't.
But I'm not defensive. Don't know what it. What's your
No,
wife?
I understand. I understand. Look, mate, I know stuff.
Wait, did I try and crack onto your wife? Because I get in trouble for that shit.
Yeah, see there? See that? That's a bad behaviour. That's
Wait,
what... Have you got... Can I ask you a question and can I get a straight answer? Do you hang out a bit with Bulldog?
No. Is Bulldog that Aussie guy?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, no.
The one...
Yeah,
He's from Western Australia.
yeah. If my thing cuts out, don't freak, I'll come back on, because I'll go from over it. No, because I'm running out of data, man, so I've got to go in my car now.
Oh, all right. Can I expect another drive-by, can I?
No, I've got to go use my thing.
Okay. All right.
Keep talking, mate.
I've lost my train of thought.
What? Said your wife was upset. I'm like, I don't remember cracking onto your missus.
No, not for anything like that, and you certainly didn't. But
all right, good.
That comment coming from you tells me a lot about you as a person.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, it does. I'm being honest. See, I'm not lying here. I'm just being straight. You have very low respect for. Yeah, well, you're a selfish person because you're interested in your own entertainment and you don't really think about other people when you make comments. Yeah.
Like what comments?
Oh no, I'm smart enough to know not to engage you on the topic, unless you're prepared to commit to being 100% honest. I'm not going to pursue it with you.
About what? 100% about what?
But here's down. This is the point I wanted to make to you before I got sidetracked. Notice how immediate his response was regarding not being, regarding being honest. That was pretty. There wasn't a lot of thinking going on there. It was just a bang-on response, and he certainly did not want to commit to a series of questions and honestly answering them.
Mm.
So that's the ego mind. It is.
Right. That's the ego mind.
Yeah. That's so. What you have, mate. It's immaturity or ego, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. You could learn a lot from me, mate, I tell you. But those behaviours are signatures of the ego mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see you, Kazum.
What?
What?
Say again? You cut out.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh. All right.
Oh, sorry, I did. What I said is I said to Kazum Fowler, he said he had to go, and I said, see ya.
Oh. All right, cool.
So I know what you did. I have no doubt about it.
You have what? No doubt about what I did. All right.
Correct.
What did I do?
Well, no, I can't ask you that question because you'll lie to me.
What do you mean? What did I do?
I'm trying to avoid you having to lie.
Oh, okay.
Trying to save you. You see, each lie you tell when you hurt someone else in this world, you're stuck with it forever until you deal with it. So I'm saving you that pain.
Oh, that's nice of you.
You're welcome. Besides, I get sick of bullshit. I don't like liars. I should qualify that. I don't like the behaviour of lying.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, boys, what else do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think the crux of the matter is what were your intentions by doing the whole camera trick? Okay, that's the question, Blair.
He's not committed, but no, see, Dan, you make a mistake, and that's a mistake. When you're dealing with someone that's not prepared to take that step of honesty, and sincerely, you're wasting your time. What will happen is you'll end up in a circular argument, and that's what happens in all these religious debates, right? He says, she says, and no one makes any ground at all. With the belief mind or the ego mind, you have to get its engagement in some way, and that's probably why some folks actually ask questions and let the answers trip the person up. But yeah, so you waste of time, of time and breath. So if our good friend Vlad wants to commit to truth, we can all learn something.
Right. I don't know what any of that means, but cool.
Well, it's not complicated. All it means is that I ask a question and you answer truthfully.
Shoot away.
Hey?
Ask away.
No, I haven't got your commitment yet. Need that commitment. It's very important.
You want my commitment?
Yeah, to tell the truth, no matter what.
Okay. Cool.
You see, Dan, when I looked at it, I was a bit miffed last night, but it's an opportunity to explore a little bit more. But this is humans. This is who we are. These are common behaviours. They don't change. And in certain cases, people can't change them. And they can't control themselves if you get them into a certain predicament. And this is what Jesus was talking about this disturbance thing, The disturbance occurs because truth meets fictional thinking. And that's why on the path to enlightenment, there's a period where you have to go through a disturbance because you have to face reality, face the truth, and then live according to that truth. That's a big commitment.
All right. What's your address, Rob?
Why?
Because I want to see if you're telling me the truth. I
About
don't know.
what?
just want to see what you say.
But I don't have to give you that, and I don't have to broadcast that. Hang on. Wait a minute. Well, see, this is down. Pay attention here as well. This is a common behaviour of the ego mind. It wants to switch the discussion away from itself. It doesn't want the attention. Now, Vlad, you'll come up with all sorts of creative reasons why what I said is not a reasonable thing, but I asked the question first. So until we've addressed my question, you don't get a question. The only way we can address my questions is by you giving a commitment to be 100% honest.
So basically, it's only you want others to be honest to you, but you don't want to be to them. All
right. Now, see that? You turned the tables. Now, my honesty hasn't been put in question. We can do that.
It just was.
But no. But we can't skip over. We can't skip over. We have to deal with yours first.
No, we don't.
Why not? I asked first.
So? Just because you asked for it doesn't mean it's what it is.
Well, it's reasonable, I think, isn't it?
Maybe to you, but not to me.
Well, I understand that, but that's your ego mind trying to divert away. Yeah, well, no, because notice how many times I asked you about will you be honest, and you couldn't answer that question. It was almost like it was impossible. Or you couldn't make that commitment. So that's and what's happening there is you and I both know the truth.
What do you mean?
100%. No, I know you'll deflect, but you and I both know the truth of the story. And because you know I know, you don't want to, you don't, your ego mind does not want to be exposed, and it doesn't want to be seen in a bad light, so it therefore will not make a commitment to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And the evidence to date is that's true. You continually avoided that question of committing to answer honestly and truthfully.
I gave you my answer. It depends on what it is, what you're asking.
No, just say yes. What's so hard about it? Don't you like the truth?
What? Just say yes. All right.
Yeah,
yes.
That's right. Just make a commitment to answer the question, a series of questions, truthfully.
For what? What? Why?
Are you afraid of the truth?
No, I just want to know why. Why would you need to ask me a series of questions?
No, it's not so much that. I want your commitment on truth, on honesty.
I'm just asking you why
it's a test of your integrity.
But why do you want it though?
Because it's important.
Why is it important?
Well, I need to hear from you that you're prepared to commit to telling the truth.
Why? It's really easy. Why?
Because it's important to tell the truth. Why ask questions if you're not going to expect a truthful answer?
Why are you asking me questions for though?
Well, that'll become clear when we get the commitment.
But why?
Give the commitment and you'll find out.
No, why? That's not being truthful.
I beg your pardon?
That's not being truthful. If you know why, you should be able to say it. If I was going to say to you, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you go, why? You should be able to give you an answer.
It's dependent on your commitment to the truth.
No, whatever, man.
Fun?
Then don't ask me questions. I don't know. You said you want to ask me questions. I mean, that's all.
Yeah, I do.
Why? You won't tell me why. Yeah, all right. What can I tell you?
Well, we're going to explore you driving by my house.
Where do you live?
No, you got your why.
Oh, okay.
You're going to commit to telling the truth?
Did I drive past your house?
No, we have to know that we can rely on you to be 100% truthful.
Yeah, I'm just asking. Did I drive past your house or something? Oh, no, then I didn't.
You see, you just lied then.
What? I'm trying to find out what happened.
No, you're being a liar, my friend.
How am I being a liar?
Well, it doesn't matter. You can argue that you're not, but I know for 100% that you actually just lied.
Why?
It doesn't matter. The fact that you've lied, you're increasing your penalties.
No,
Whether you
okay.
believe it or not, you really are.
All right. What happened, man? Tell me
So, what? No, I haven't got the commitment from you yet.
what. Commitment what for? Why are you calling me a liar? What did I lie about? I didn't get it.
Well, you are a liar.
What did I miss?
Now, are you going to commit to telling the truth?
Yeah, I always fucking. I'm good, man. What do you want to know?
Right, so I take that you just said to me that you're going to answer the questions truthfully. Is that correct?
Yep, go for it.
Righto.
Quick.
Now, I've got a video
Mm-hmm.
which shows
Mm-hmm.
your camera yesterday driving past my house,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you were online at that time and you were driving that car.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said, because this was said on the video as well, you said, come outside now.
I said come outside now.
Yes, you did. I don't know whether it was now, but it's come outside is what you said.
Uh-huh.
It's actually on the video.
Can you play that?
I'll see if I can dig it up.
Yeah, play it.
No, but the first question, while I get it, so I'm saying to you, I'm 100% sure that was you driving past my house.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Are you saying that you did not?
No, I don't know if I drove past your house. Did I drive past your house though?
Well, you flicked the video onto my house.
Yeah. Did I?
So you clearly knew. And here's the other thing too, right?
I don't know where you sleep at night, man. What am I got like?
Okay, so
Access to the camera over your shoulder or something?
on my little review of, hang on a minute.
Huh.
See, what's happening now, I tried to give you a chance to get out of it, but what's happening now is you're just sort of digging this deeper hole for yourself.
How on earth am I ever going to know where you live? How is that even possible, man?
I'll tell you why I know for sure. Okay, so, shit, hang on. Just continue.
Oh, that's what that is. Where is it?
Hey?
What?
Not that one. Yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
the guy that was in the room in the hangout.
Okay, well, I've in ground.
Oh, this might be it.
What?
Yeah, this
Now
is
you
one.
go to the back. You know, as soon as you mention Thomas, that's why I'm coy about using the term Thomas. They
I should have got this ready. Right, so I've got it up
somewhere.
where you...
No, actually, yeah, no, I live here. It's my street.
Yeah. So, hold it. You made a comment. This is still in Sunshine. You said you lived in this street here. Now, I know that street. Do you live in Sunshine?
Hey, do I live there?
No, it's a question. Do you live in Sunshine?
I just said yes, I live there.
What's the address?
I'm not giving you my address. What do you want to know that for? No one gives you no one's address. Why?
Hmm.
You can't ask that. What's your address?
I'm not going to broadcast it on
Well, there
live.
you go. So why are you asking then if you're not going to give me yours?
Okay. You know what? We call this trolling. Okay, and you've been called out. You've been caught red-handed. You did it in a live hangout. There's video of what you did, Vladimir. Why don't you just answer the questions and answer them truthfully, and stop doing the ego mind ruse? Okay, we know what you're doing, and it's very annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Well,
Dad.
it is, mate, because what you're doing is this, right? You're taking pleasure out of causing discomfort with people. So that's trolling. And I find it obnoxious. But the bottom line is, you will pay a price, my friend. Not from me coming to attack you. I'm not like that. But there's a consequence for living a life the way that you live it. It'll hit you later on in life as you grow up a bit. And
What? What was?
what I'm interested in is why do you choose to do it? Is life that miserable that this is the only way you can get kicks, or what? See, I saw a bulldog, and that comment, what did he say about that lady? That's fucking appalling, mate. Absolutely appalling bully boy tactics. And he probably sits there, who knows, jerking off or whatever, or having drinks and that. But I find this trolling behaviour to be obnoxious, because what it does, we spend a lot of time. It's like arguing with a Christian, right? You spend a lot of bloody time trying to get around the veneer and all the bullshit. You know it's bullshit. The person themselves knows it's bullshit, but you can't seem to control yourself, I guess, and you can't get past that, and you can't be a decent human being. And it wastes a lot of time. Oh. The truth might have been too hard to handle. It'd be interesting to see if I had an impact, or if he's going to come around and punch my lights out.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. I think you've resolved it right now. I think it's been totally resolved. I think he's learned it. I hope he's learned a lesson.
Well, that'd be good. That'd be the positive outcome. But I'm not so sure. you know, the belief mines are very hard nuts to crack. But maybe he's had a yeah. It'll be interesting to see if any of you guys catch up with him in the next couple of days. He may not come back near me, but just see if there is a change in the guy for the better. Be interesting, because as you well know, Down, that's the name of the game. It's about bringing about a positive change by destroying beliefs and wrong thinking.
Hey Rob, let's say Sandra was making a roast and she made like extra mashed potatoes and extra roast and all this. And let's say that I happen to be close by on business. Would you ever invite me over for dinner?
Oh yeah, I suppose so. I mean, the house is a bit of a wreck, but yeah, no drama.
Yeah, notice how I said invite as well. You know, I would never just pop up and just expect to be fed. You know, that would be definitely imposing.
Hmm. Oh, unless you're sort of family members, sort of knew knew that well. Oh, hang on, he's back.
I got Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought we had a breakthrough. Got through to, hey?
Got through to what?
What'd you say?
What?
Oh, okay.
What happened?
Yeah, so Vlad, tell me something. Are you interested in telling the truth?
What do you mean? I do tell the truth.
No, just a yes or no will do. Are you interested in telling the truth?
Oh, I just gave you my answer. You don't have to like it. You have to make me re-answer it to your satisfaction, but I just said that, yeah, I do tell the truth. So you should take that as a yes, man.
Okay, all right. So you do tell the truth. Well,
Yep.
Did you drive by my house?
I don't know if I drove past your house because I don't know where your house is. So I can't tell you yes or no, can I?
On the video, it shows that the person, or yourself, right,
Yep.
held the camera at a house.
Right.
Now, shortly afterwards, you weren't driving by houses holding the camera towards the house. You were just, you know, it was sort of positioned looking forward, I think. So, again, the question, did you drive by my house?
No, I don't know. If I drove past your house,
that's a lie. That's a lie, my friend. Now,
what? I don't know where you live, though, do I?
No. I know. Just take it from just between you and me. I know 100% that that's a lie. Now, the next question. So you've got that as in your bag of lie kit or your bag of lies. The next question is.
Really? So I know where you live.
There was a guy in the room. Now, down corner, I don't know whether you remember this dude, but there was a guy. And he made an effort to get me to look up at Vladimir's screen. And it was right at the point that Vladimir was showing or had his camera pointed at my house.
Yeah, I think Vladimir and the guy's name is Gohan. I think Vladimir and Gohan were working in cohort together, Rob.
Great, yeah, well that's where I was heading. Okay, so Gohan, do you know what is it, Gohan? Gohan? Down?
Yeah, by the way, that Gohan guy, Rob, he was showing a spreadsheet of people's social security numbers, their addresses, blah blah blah. If he has somebody's name, he can pull up their home address and all kinds of stuff. He was bragging about it.
Oh, right. Vlad, are you aware of that?
No, not at all.
So that again is a lie.
Why? How am I lying?
That's okay, mate. I don't give a fuck. But I just know that they're lies. But anyway, so do you hang on, mate. Do you know Gohan?
Who?
What's his name?
Well, here I'll link Vlad to the profile. Let me pull it up. It's a Gohan, Ohan. Let me find the profile for you, Rob.
So the question is, do you know this particular person?
Hey, Rob, I was wrong on the name. When I put it into the Google Plus search, it came up as Gohan CC.
Oh, Gohan.
I don't know. I don't know this particular person though.
Okay, that's a lie.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do now, mate, is I'm satisfied. I'm disappointed in you not helping yourself, but anyway, I'm going to actually eject you from this room, but I'm also going to block you because, yeah, unless of course you want to just become truthful.
I am truthful.
Okay, well, see you later, alligator.
All right.
Oops, how to come that didn't work? Eject. There we go. All right.
Kind of disrespectful.
Now, Vlad, just a tip in life: don't be the person that you are at the moment.
You know, in somebody else's hangout, you should really respect them as well. I mean, that should be a lesson too, Rob. You know. You made the hangout, and he had very little respect, and he was not very conscientious. Rob, go ahead. Your mic, he muted you, Rob. We can't hear you. Hey, Rob, we can't hear you, Rob. Your mic is muted. You have to unmute.
Yeah. So I was just saying, like, I've got no. Oh, here we go. I'm going to kick that guy straight away because he is just so obnoxious.
Hello.
Actually, I might just stay with him for a bit. So I want to see if he's changed any. Benaberry. Interesting. Down, the company you keep. Anyway, what I was saying is, like, I give the guy a chance, and it helps clear the air, but it relies on integrity and honesty, and he just wasn't prepared to go there. But that's understandable. I mean, for me, it's just another one of those exercises where you try and get through to people that are living a lie in a sense. Chaz is a good one.
I'd love to hear this.
You may not be here for long, Chaz. I just wondered if you changed your ways, or you're still a bit of an believer in yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why Chaz isn't on board with ending with our goal to end Islam and end the churches. I mean, it's a pretty rational and productive thing to be behind. It's a very good effort. I don't know why he wants to undermine what you're trying to do, Rob.
Oh, you can't. I can piss him off straight away, but I'm just curious whether the guy's turned a corner or got any better. See, Chaz, I know you, mate. I know exactly what you like and why you're the way you are, and it's all ego driven. So just like the religion,
Wow.
the religious
You've not stopped projecting, have you? And what's this nonsense about? What am I trying to block? Look, I'm no fan of Islam or churches or anything like that. I think religion is a pointless idea, and I speak out against it. I'm not some sort of fucking Hitler that's going to go burning churches and rounding up everybody who's fucking religious. Like, that's just a bit insane. I'm not going to force my beliefs, my way onto other people, but I am going to, you know, call people out on their bullshit behaviour. The free exchange of ideas is what changes the world, not one person trying to throw their fucking weight around.
Hang on a minute, that's you. Hello.
You know,
that's
Hello?
you.
You know what though, Chaz? The thing is that sometimes it takes one person with an idea in order for change to happen, and that idea has to start with one person. There's plenty of examples of this.
It doesn't take one person. It's like, have you ever seen Monty Python's The Life of Brian? As he says in that,
hold on a second.
Supreme power comes from a mandate from the masses, not some farcical aquatic ceremony.
Look at Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, he was one man that started the idea. You know, he borrowed from Gandhi and other people, but he was one man that put himself out there and started the idea to end Jim Crow. To end
he wasn't the only person. There was thousands of other people. Rosa Parks.
Finish. But he was the first one to legitimize the movement. He was the first one, and all Rob is trying to do is legitimize it, and you're trying to compare him to Hitler. Where do you get that notion?
No, I wasn't comparing him to Hitler at all. Where did I say Rob is Hitler?
That's what you implied when you said that he...
No, I never implied anything.
Hey, Rob, the ego mind is alive and well. Rob, the ego mind is alive and well.
Well, no, I picked up some changes in the man, just in that little dialogue, so he seems to be improving. I'll give him that much. But here's the thing with religion, right? It's like we've had the rounds of bloody dialogues and debates, and it hasn't achieved anything. Not anything. If anything, things are perhaps worse. These religions are still growing, and they are a real problem. And I'll tell you exactly why I think they're a problem. Is because they're run by empires. They don't exist for gods at all. Now that probably gets you labelled as a conspiracy theorist.
Well, it's pretty hard to exist for God.
Well, that's right, because they don't exist, I understand, but and that's a true statement. They don't exist. But these are cults of personality. It's just like the North Korean situation. It's just the same with Cyrus the Great, the Roman Empire. I'm not sure who's behind Islam. I haven't done enough research to work out who sits behind it, but it'll be an empire of some sorts. It'll be either the Arabian Empire or the Persian Empire, one of those two. And they create these figures, give them a relationship with a god, and then they create a rule book, and bingo, you've got a religion.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's just the same as one person electing themselves arbiter of everything, who then goes out and tells everybody to do things their way.
Exactly.
Now, sometimes, if you look at a lot of the Bible stuff, like some of the things in Leviticus, like don't eat pork, you can understand why the Jews and the Muslims, whose culture essentially stems out of the arid desert, might have problems with storing pork. And probably a lot of and shellfish. These things probably would have become quite foul, and if not cooked properly, quite poisonous to the public, who would have gotten all sorts of you know, bacteria and microbes and parasites from eating tainted food. And so they kind of like, in that way of seeing cause and effect, which human beings obviously can identify, science wouldn't exist if we can't, they were probably sort of like going, oh, we don't eat these things because they're cursed. And when people didn't eat these things, they saw that less illness came about.
Yeah,
And,
but
you know, they attributed that to some magic because they didn't have any other explanation other than this previous explanation of its magic.
but on that point alone, there's a bit of an issue, because if you go to the Islam documentation, the shellfish aren't really covered off, not to any degree, I don't think. So, you know, it falls down a little bit, that argument that it's sort of built on.
Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't require shellfish to be banned in Islam, because the point still stands with the pork. And I wasn't saying they both ban pork and shellfish, but that's where this all comes from. I mean, so there's this experiment, and I think the guy's name is Skinner that did it, where they fed pigeons at random intervals, and they noticed the pigeons started exhibiting certain behaviours in order to trigger the food, and because they started to, in much the same similar sort of mechanism as how Pavlov's dog works, they started associating the food as a reward to something that they were doing at the time. So they would then infer that by doing that thing, then the food comes. It's a post hoc ergo propter hoc logic. And, you know, so these birds started essentially doing like a rain dance to call upon the rains. And so you've got to understand that in basic human instinct is this kind of poor reasoning of correlation being causation.
Okay, correlation being causation.
Yeah, we see two things happening at the same time, and we think those things are attributed to one another. I mean, it'd be like sort of, you know, reading a horoscope and it's saying you're going to meet an attractive person, and then you meet an attractive person and thinking that it had something to do with that horoscope.
Yeah. So I kind of got to the point where I look at things a little bit more simplistically.
That is quite simplistically.
Yeah. I know
that's the
that
very simple foundational basis for human psyches.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of the human brain has come later on in our development, but a lot of our instinctual drives are what drive that. Before we can learn from our surroundings, we've already got this biological predetermined setup, this kind of like factory default psyche, which understands that by crying it can get attention it needs to be suckled, to be cleaned. Right. It can then use this as a manipulator later on in life. Children will test the boundaries by throwing tantrums to try and sort of see what behavior they can get away with, and see if they can mitigate that behavior in any way with the tantrum. Because they're used to understanding the world as I get everything I want when I cry.
Yeah, the saying that I like the best, and it makes the most sense to me. It's only a simple one, is that one about the two wolves, and you've heard that all before, I take it.
Oh, yeah, and I've pointed out to you, Rob, there are some serious holes in that analogy. Number one, if the altruistic wolf, was altruistic, then it would feed the selfish wolf.
I don't understand.
Right, there are two wolves inside everybody, yeah? As you
Yep.
say. One is the good wolf, who is altruistic, and one is the bad wolf, who is selfish, yeah?
Hmm.
And if the altruistic wolf is the one that you're feeding, by the true nature of altruism, it would have to share its food with the selfish one. Otherwise, it would be being selfish. Everything we do, including altruistic behavior, is based on selfishness. The only reason why we commit to altruistic acts as a species is because we benefit as a product of the group benefiting.
Yes.
People don't like doing things where they don't benefit, but the rest of the group does. We've noticed that in even other species, that they can understand inequality. There's this great experiment where they put two monkeys in cages and they were feeding them. They gave them a rock, yeah, and they had to give the rock back in order to get the piece of fruit, yeah. Now one was given some cucumber, I think, or a grape, and then the next one was given a grape, and then the other one sort of gets really excited, yeah, like is banging on the table to be given the rock, yeah, gives the rock back in a hurry, like all excited for like this. I think it's a grape that's coming. Gets given another bit of cucumber slice, yeah. Actually, I think no, it was the other way around, yeah. It wanted cucumber slice and it was given grape, yeah. And it looks at the grape and then throws it at the woman, yeah, and it's like demanding this bit of cucumber slice because it sees the inequality and it wants the cucumber slice. And that's how altruism also works as well. It comes all off of this same mechanism in human beings. We like to benefit. We need that to live, yeah. And as a group, we've learned that mutually benefiting is often advantageous. So, for instance, if we go out in a hunting party, whilst we take on the additional mouths that have to be fed by the success of that hunting, with more people hunting, we were able to strategize, we were able to, you know, play the odds, increase our favor in getting food. But however, if the food was then getting limited, and we happen to stumble across something, oh, do you think we're sharing that little morsel of food around everybody? No, that's the I'll eat this and pretend I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, that's
and if
right.
anybody asks about it, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I agree. If you have a limited supply of food, there's going to be a fight.
Yeah, there's going to be selfishness. Because
Yeah.
that is the underpin of our psyche, is basically, I think, therefore I am. We recognize ourselves. And that's one thing that human beings have in spades against other animals, is we quickly and with ease begin to learn self-recognition. We passed the mirror dot test well early in our development.
What's that test?
Oh, they show an animal a mirror, and then what they do is they then later on they mark it with a dot, and then they show it the mirror again, and if it starts becoming interested in the spot where the mark is, then it's obviously identifying itself. It's not a great test because there is one flaw to it, that essentially the things then started to realize if that thing is like me, not necessarily me, but like me, then we two both have this spot, and then it's aware of the spot, but not necessarily that it has the spot. But it's a good starting point, nevertheless. And only a few animals have been able to pass this test. Very few.
But here's the way I like to frame the problem, right? And so for me, I don't like wasting my time. I did in the past, but I have a specific agenda. I actually want to see if there's some way to cancel Islam and Christianity. And to me, the crux of the problem seems to be this notional idea that a believer has in their head that a normal, a non-believer doesn't have about God. So I look at it as, let's call it a bubble, if you like. And the solution to the problem is to burst that bubble somehow.
Yeah, you allow people to do that. You keep on. You see, the best way to get people to change their minds is by getting them to do it themselves. Yeah.
I agree with that. Because there was a statement in the Jesus books. It says, "Know thyself," and when I saw it, I thought, yeah, that's it. I mean, because what you do, you get people to role play if you want them to understand or empathise with a different position. So I'm sure that getting the individual to
education would be one thing. Yeah. If people learn how to critically analyze things correctly, what fallacies are, yeah, how to spot when they're thinking incorrectly, when they're committing a fallacy, when they're overreaching their conclusions and other things like that, then they're going to be a lot better equipped to then be able to truly sort of engage in any sort of Socraticism, self-criticism, to be able to criticize the things that they interact with. And
yeah,
so from that...
Could you see Muslims getting even anywhere close to that sort of level of understanding of logic?
Yeah.
That ain't happening, though.
It ain't happening in certain fucking countries that are being heavily destabilized. I mean, one thing you've got to take into account when you are saying, I mean, don't forget, it's Muslims who gave us certain things about mathematics and science that we didn't even get to grips with. So that's one point. Another thing you've got to remember is you've got these countries being heavily destabilized by the influences from the West. You know, certain freedom fighters getting given arms, certain dictatorships being given arms. You know, essentially, they're going to start. There are fights and conflicts in the Middle East, which are fought by both sides using the same weapons. And it's because, you know, they've been armed by the same people.
But again, my focus is specifically on that individual person that holds that belief bubble. How can I quickly burst it?
You can't. You've got to. They've got to do it themselves. If anything, if you start attacking, or start making somebody feel like they're being attacked, all that's going to do is make them become more defensive. If they start becoming more defensive, they're just going to become more and more unreachable. And because then what's going to happen in every debate that they then get into, anybody who merely questions them, no matter how politely and how fairly, they're going to just put those defenses up instantly and make a bunch of assertions about what the other person is saying. You see it with people like G-Man and stuff on here, when they're just like, oh, you atheists believe this, and you atheists believe that, and you atheists say this. Yeah? They start assigning all of these things, yeah, to what the possible contradictory viewpoint could be, and try and attack it on a number of things without even establishing if anybody who's criticizing them believes those things. And then what about the ones that don't? What do you have to say then after that? Absolutely nothing. And that's part of the problem. Like, I used to believe in God and stuff when I was little. I had atheist parents, but I went to Catholic school, yeah? I started to question my faith when I was about 10, because where I lived, there's lots of Roman artifacts, and Jesus was around about the time of the Romans. I'd watch lots of history stuff on the TV, because my dad always had on Time Team on a Sunday. And, you know, I had an interest in history, and because of Jurassic Park, a big interest in dinosaurs. And then one time, I just had to ask, is there any archaeological proof that Jesus existed? To my teacher during an RE lesson, and I didn't get an answer to that. So I premised it further with, is there any fossil evidence for this stuff? Again, nothing. And then that's when I began to pick it apart myself and realize, damn, this stuff's just bollocks. I thought this stuff was giving me answers. It's not. I haven't even asked any questions, and that's the problem. That's the problem with religion. It's not that it gives you answers, it's that it tries to give you answers before you've even asked any questions. So you don't bother questioning, well, how did our universe come to be? You know, what is our universe made of? There's no point doing science if you're religious. There's no point understanding forces and, you know, how the way the world works, and that essentially leaving Earth's atmosphere is a bit like re-emerging from through the surface of a body of water. You know, there's no point understanding any of that, because ultimately the very end part of that is, and this was all done by God.
Well, I like, and I'm interested in having a session with a religious person. I like the Book of Daniel as a point of reference, and just talking about whether it's true or false.
Well, I mean, that's the funny thing. Another thing with the religions, and you especially see this a lot from Christianity on here, because let's face it, that's the major one that we all coming from European descendants are most familiar with, and that you can interpret it any way. You can say this is an analogy, and you know, what is God essentially is merely just an expression of like energy and matter, the universe itself, and all of that sort of jive. You can then be a literalist and say every word in it is fuck darn true, and inspired by the hand of God.
Book of Daniel is a different cat, because, and there's good scholarship to back this up, scholarship, and this is Yale University, so that defeats the Wikipedia whinge. You have prophecies that are predicted up to but not beyond 160 BC, and you can map it very closely, very tightly to history. It can't be argued.
Rob, hold on. No, there is a problem with doing that, yeah? The problem with mapping predictions, and this is the whole problem with predictions, it goes back to what I said about post hoc, ergo propter hoc.
That's okay, I understand where you're going.
There is tons of events that probably correlate, yeah? You know, might be, you know, fluke, you know, just certain fluke of guessing, you know, gets all of them right. It's like if I gave you a pack of cards, Rob, which, and I'm going to tell you a thing about pack of cards now, the second you shuffle a deck of cards, you create an entirely new order of cards that hasn't existed before, because the amount of permutations is just so vast. Yeah, there are so many that you could cover. Yeah, so you could shuffle them randomly in a room. I won't have any idea of how you shuffled them. And then I could just have a light that comes on when you've picked up the next card from the deck, and I can just say a random card, yeah? And purely shilly by coincidence, get every single guess right.
No, that's not the case here, because it actually maps very specifically to specific events. The 10 horns, you can map that down to the 10 kingdoms, you can name every one of them. So all of the events...
Yeah, but then you're just looking for your own inference there. The 10 horns, that must be the 10 kingdoms. The 7 days in the Bible, that must be a reference to the 7-day weeks that we have now.
No.
You might as well then just be telling me that there's the Trinity in the Bible, yeah, was, you know, Half-Life 3 confirmed. That's essentially what you're doing. I could do that.
You're sounding
it's
like
no different to sacred geometry, mate. You can insert your own inference on any of these things and go, and look, this matches up. It's not like if it said, 2 planes would crash into the World Trade Center on September the 11th, or 2001 at 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever, New York time, and kill a bunch of people, and that was written down like a few thousand years ago, I might be inclined to say, fuck me, you've got something there, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just like, this thing referenced something that has a number of something, and then I'm saying that's post hoc ergo propter hoc. You can do that with anything, and just like I said, we can say that the Trinity, or the song 3 is the magic number, was a reference to Half-Life 3 being confirmed.
No. You're totally...
No, Rob, that is entirely what you're doing.
No, that's bullshit.
How's that bullshit, Rob? How's that not what you're doing, Rob? How is that not what you're doing with this?
Firstly, right, Yale University teaches what I'm espousing. They teach these mapped historical events back to this biblical account. They map them through to 160 BC.
Okay, Scott, in what field are these people?
Hang on.
In what field are these people? Can I just ask, Rob, can you give me a link to this Yale thing?
Yes.
And what fields are these people in?
Well, this guy's an educator. I think he's a historical professor. I think. Hang on, I'll get it for you. But I've tied in a couple of other things that he hasn't with this particular book. And basically...
Religious studies.
Yeah. That's all right. Don't worry. Watch it. It's enlightening. And that's probably a positive thing too, because we can say that you could say to a religious person, have a listen to it. Have a listen to what they're saying, because the religious folks believe that the Book of Daniel predicts events that are still to come, and that Rome's the fourth beast, and all of that's blown out of the water by this, and it's connected back to actual events that occurred 160 BC. But what's really interesting is the person that's put this together also says that they give a date of authorship of the Book of Daniel of 164 BC. And that's based on a couple of criteria. What that says very plainly, very, very plainly, is this, that this is fabricated prophecy. Someone, after the events that occurred, has sat down and written these events, because we know that because they occurred historically earlier than when the authorship occurs.
So essentially, then, it's not a prophecy. It's it's just an account of history. It's no different than like a textbook's right now, And then in 1940, the Battle of Britain started in the Aes between Germany and England. Exactly. That's not a prophecy. That is an acclamation of something that happened, not something that has yet to happen.
Well, it's a mischievous forgery, is what it is.
So is the text claiming to be older than these events?
Yes, it does, and it actually puts a little preface in there to explain why it's not witnessed through history. It's to be buried and dug up later. But we know that there's no evidence of this Book of Daniel existing 200 BC, when the Jewish Bible was closed. So it wasn't mentioned at that point. And then there's also a writing that came after of 180 BC. There was mention of these biblical texts, but not the Book of Daniel. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious when you look at it, what's going on is that someone's sat down to write this book and fake prophecy. Now that explains. Oh, that's how.
Here's the
there's
thing, though, Rob. As I was saying, you don't even have to fake prophecy. See, I can prophesize things now. I can prophesize that tomorrow I will serve a customer at work called John. Yeah? Now, if I then serve somebody at work called John, I haven't successfully proved that I prophesized it. What I have done is successfully proved that I can make an assertion, and simply based on random chance, especially if that has a high degree of occurring.
Yeah, but we're not talking about a random chance of a prophecy being correct. What we're talking about is a fabrication of prophecy.
I know, but I mean that's the thing. I'm saying you don't even have to fabricate them. This thing doesn't have to be. The big reveal here isn't that these things could have been fabricated or have been fabricated. It's the fact that even if they weren't, it still wouldn't mean a damn thing if these events were somehow predetermined by somebody to occur. I mean, if you were a very smart person and mathematically inclined, and you had a large enough amount of information, you could write an algorithm which would tell you exactly everything that's going to happen everywhere in the universe at any given time.
Yeah, but here's why.
And the answer you would get at the end is 42.
Now, but the interesting thing that I found about this book of Daniel is that it's actually the first time you ever hear about an archangel called Gabriel and Micheal. So it doesn't stand to reason. It's not reasonable to say, all right, they've fabricated this book of Daniel, but God really filled us in correctly on Gabriel. It must be that if the author's forging the book of Daniel and prophecy, they must also have been making up the story about Angel Gabriel. And of course, that being true,
you do know where a lot of these things come from, don't you, Rob?
What?
They're kind of half borrowed from stories that other cultures that have adopted Christianity have kind of added and inflicted upon it, with the sort of way that they've conceptualized gods in their religions, and they've indeed structured Christianity to even fit their time schedule of the year and their customs. And I mean, one thing you can clearly see with this is that you get this kind of idea of a demigod, yeah, who comes to Earth and is the savior of humans, which you get legends like that in Greek and Roman history. You also get legends of, the
reason that they exist, those stories, are because leaders of those communities saw an advantage of alignment to these gods, and they were used for political reasons, and that's why they thrived, and because they gave advantage to those elite groups. You see more and more examples of these cults of personality through history, and the Romans.
Well, of course, you know the very beginning one, don't you? I hope if you're going to mention the Romans, you're going for the very big one.
What's that? Jupiter?
No.
What?
The kind of like the classical idea of Jesus is based on a picture of the Roman emperor. What's his name? Constantinople, I believe it was the first. Kind of mirrored with the image of a sun god at the time. And so the halo is actually the sun behind the head. And this was a lot of sort of religious and political iconography.
Hmm.
I mean, it's no different than what we see now with leaders who, in America, you know, say "God bless America," and and they try and use the God angle as a way to kind of guilt trip people into following their kind of tribalistic urges, into voting and supporting them, and to being less critical of the things that they say, because, you know, Mike Huckabee loves Jesus.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a political move, that's for sure.
And
But
Super Lee isn't obviously gay and stuff.
but you see, if you destroy the story of Gabriel, then you destroy Islam, and you also destroy Christianity.
Oh, you can destroy it anyway. The entire premise that you have for your whole assertion is that this being is real. Can you prove that premise? No. Bye-bye then.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't do anything. Because what happens, the person goes back and says, I don't care, I'm still believing. But it's different, I think, with the Book of Daniel, because you've got, all of a sudden, God's book, the Book of Daniel, being very, very tenuous in that it is a definite, I mean, to me, but of course I'm sitting on the atheist side of the fence, or not an atheist though, but
What are you then? Do you practice the active worship of a god, yes or no?
no.
Then you're an atheist.
Nah, I don't like the atheist group, because here's my problem, right?
Atheist is not an identity, right? Or a religion or a group or anything like that. Atheists just simply means without God. It is a true dichotomy. You either believe in God or you do not believe in God. You can't both, under the law of non-contradiction, simultaneously actively believe and actively disbelieve in a God. You know, so for instance, atheists include Buddhists and you know, various different other sort of religions, because most people who are irreligious tend to be atheist because they're not really assigned to any dogma. They tend to just take the primary label of atheist. You see, like a Christian is a theist and a Christian, yeah? They Christianity is theism, whereas as an atheist, I'm not a Christian, so therefore I have nothing to put on the end of that. So therefore, I'm just an atheist. And people have tried to make it this sort of like this identity that it really isn't, and you know, but no, you are an atheist, and I think we should start using words for what they fucking mean, because if we just broaden definitions too much, then words are ultimately meaningless.
Yeah. Oh, maybe, but anyway, you know, I mean, and this is where it gets confusing, I suppose. I like the term Gnostic, as in knowing, evidence-based living, as opposed to belief-based living.
Yeah, no, but Gnostic just means no. Agnostic means don't know. Is without knowledge.
I'm comfortable with what I want, and I think I know.
Well, no, I mean the whole idea is that in say your atheistic claim, if your claim in atheism is that I know there isn't a God, so therefore I don't believe, yeah, that would be a Gnostic claim. I don't know whether there is a God or not. I choose on that basis to believe then that there isn't. That's an agnostic claim. But if you are not practicing the active worship of a God, then you are still an atheist. This whole idea that agnostic somehow is a middle ground sort of thing. It doesn't exist, and there seems to be a lot of people who try and do this sort of like this fence sitting, this centralism, because they're trying to sort of hedge their bets as being neither correct or incorrect.
Yeah. I know this may not go down well, but I feel I understand everything about how all this stuff works, how the religions came to pass, what the motivating forces were. I understand.
You won't ever get rid of it because of that same behaviour manifests itself in other ways. Human beings build up these identities, and we like to, and part of the reason is we like to have a group identity, a tribe, if you will, that we belong to. And you see it in sort of fashion trends, and I don't know if you've seen the theme Mean Girls, but like the idea of the cliques in the cafeteria. You've got your jocks, your plastics, your geeks, your Asians, you know, people sticking with a group that they have a similar sort of dress code and music and, you know, a lot of shared experience too. This thing then becomes no different than that thing, and we then have an us and the other. We have a way to define people as part of our group and not part of our group. And when we start to do that, I mean, that's when things can go to bad things, and we can start, you know, becoming racist and believing other people have lesser rights or are evil or gay or bad and wrong and stuff like that.
We're all doomed.
Yeah. What we're a bunch of stupid monkeys who are, you know, grossly undereducating our population, who are not making the changes that need to be made to fit the new change of our society. New technology revolutionizes society. For instance, farming. Every time that's been revolutionized, it's allowed for a larger population, better crop yields. You know, we've been able to then selectively breed for chickens and stuff like that have larger meat content to their bodies. You know, that produce more eggs, that you know, do all of these other things that we've allowed our population to boom. And as part of that, it changes the dynamic in our society of what people need to do. And we've had a huge change now coming with the internet and the way technology is rapidly increasing. I mean, as part of the razor of technology, it just gets steeper and steeper. You know, the further along the timeline that you go, because of technology will always keep increasing and making better and new technology. And that's one of the things we've got to adjust to in a society that then fits that dynamic.
Yeah, but if you haven't got, see, the real true story behind religions is held in the word belief. If you belief is a useless thing. It doesn't serve humanity.
I know, but people can't help it, Rob. I'll give you an example. Ouija boards, yeah? Nowadays thought of as spirit boards, and, you know, they could contact the realm and might invoke ghosts, yeah? This thing was a board game created by a company, but people somehow believe it's part of, like, voodoo magic, you know, and somehow connected to, you know, witchcraft and other things, when it was a board game created by a board game company.
No, but
and that only happened 100 fucking years ago.
I understand.
That's how stupid the human race is. The thing is, information spreads through the human race like a virus, yeah?
But the thing that steps
unfortunately,
in religion,
nothing's going to determine what viruses are going to be most prevalent and most contagious.
The thing that steps in, right, when religion's gone, now I know that's a big ask, but the thing that steps in is science. Science is the thing that takes over.
Yes, because science
truth-
asks questions, Rob, and then answers them.
Yeah.
And the thing that's going to propel that is if people can understand how to analyze things and how to separate good science from junk science, that would be a great thing. Let's, like, for instance, we've got somebody on here called Ryan Gallagher, yeah, who thinks he understands science but doesn't understand how forces work, can't understand how a rocket goes into space because he doesn't understand the fundamentals of the physics involved in those principles. He doesn't understand how gravity is a continual force acting upon the rocket that deaccelerates it, and so that it must continually produce thrust in order to have a force greater in order to accelerate away from the Earth. He doesn't understand these things. He doesn't understand how these principles work. So when it comes to him trying to understand something, which if you understood the basics would make sense, he's at a loss, and so therefore it turns into it's a conspiracy to lie about the shape of the Earth and all of this sort of stuff.
What's his name, Ryan?
Yeah.
I know Ryan. Ryan's got some really wacky thinking. It's just the same
You know who I'm talking about, right?
I think I do. He's got some really strange ideas, doesn't he? To boot on belief.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, his flat Earth stuff is immensely crazy.
Yeah,
and I mean, the problem is he can't seem to absorb any new information because of this other stuff.
There's that critical point, right? You always get to that critical point between truth or knowledge or fact, and on one side, and then belief. And this is the thing. Now I'll go back to Jesus, right?
By the way, Rob, can I ask you one question? I've been dying to ask you.
Yeah.
Did you ever write what is this thing called bad yet?
No. It was going to be called what is this thing called evil?
That was it. That was it. Yes, that was it.
Yeah. Now Down's having a bit of a fiddle with me, but basically.
I beg your pardon.
Bad choice of words. But that was the story that tracked religion through the Roman Empire through to today, because I hold the view very strongly that the Roman Empire is the owner of the Catholic Church. What that empire is and who those people are. Yeah.
Hold on. In the past, yes, the Roman Empire and the Catholic Church were very, very linked because of essentially you've got the Holy Roman Empire. Rome loses its kind of like its military empire, but a lot of its former territories still stay quite loyal to Romans and the Roman way of life. And as a consequence of this, Catholicism spread through a lot of Europe and places like, for instance, Britain. Kings were under the influence of the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church had a way of making money from people. And the other thing is as well, they could set up places and they had a sphere of influence over the public because most people couldn't read or write. They were depending on the church for knowledge.
Yeah, I should have said empires have owned that church through history up to today.
Yeah, but when you say the Roman Empire, it kind of made it sound like you might be thinking that there was some insidious kind of like Illuminati sort of thing going on in the Catholic Church.
Well, I know for sure that Rome created Christianity, and it was the Flavians that kicked it off. I know that quite confidently. I watched it move through history, and it dragged its church along with it. Constantine was the biggest spurt for the whole thing. And I mean, it couldn't be any other way. I mean, the only other way is that there was a God, and there just simply isn't. Too many.
Well, no, that's not the only other way. They adopted. There were stories of some young person. There's a number of things. There were stories about some young guys who was going around saying sort of like certain things which struck an accord with people. Things like, you know, the rich should be helping the poor and things like that. Kind of like a Russell Brand of the day, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people kind of agreed with what he was saying, yeah? And however, you know, through sort of like legend and things like that, you know, he got claimed to be the son of God and all of these sorts of things. Or he was said to be the son of God in order to sort of like make people more inclined to believe in him as a kind of like, you know, like if somebody goes, oh, this Jesus fella, why should I listen to him? Well, he is the son of God. Well, I can't argue with that now, can I?
Hmm.
Or, you know, the Romans took some of their religious understanding and created this legend of some sort of Messiah as foretold by the Jews, and sent it sort of like around areas where there have been legends of one or more people doing something, and, you know, they were sort of taken and sort of like cobbled together, and over time, like, names have been changed, and sort of like this person who's actually two different people's actions are now being contributed to the one person. Like, for instance, the legend of Robin Hood can take place anywhere between 1038 and about sort of like 1276 AD. And it's hard to pinpoint it, and there may have been multiple different people that the Robin Hood tale's about, and there's lots of different candidates. The most common one is sort of held around about 1190 with sort of John and you know, like King John and Robin Hood, and, you know, that whole legend that you mainly get out of Hollywood and the Robin of Locksley sort of tale. And, you know, even today, like, there's this rumor that went around at one stage about Prince that he had his ribs removed in order to suck his own dick. The same rumor still goes around these days, but it's about the what they called the artist Marilyn Manson. Supposedly, he's had his ribs removed in order to suck his own dick. Now, before we get into this story, we need to just premise this. It's not the fact that you have lower ribs that makes it hard, if not impossible, for you to suck your own dick. It's the fact that you have vertebrae arranged the way it does. You see, cats can lick their bollocks, and they have ribs. That's because they've got a different structure to their spine than you do.
Mm-hmm. How interesting. Anyway, the second journey, so out of first century Judea, you have the Romans and the Empire carting along its Roman Christianity, its cult, and then over on the other side you've got the Jewish folks out of Persia, and they move. Got to get a call. They move up through the Balkans and across to America. Hello? No, look, not yet. All right.
How's your wife, by the way, Rob? No, I don't mean it like that. I have no problem with his wife. Look, trolling. Why are you laughing? So how have you been, Beaner, anyway?
I'm back.
Welcome back, Rob.
Yeah,
How's
so
your wife, by the way?
she's fine.
Tell her I said hello.
Now, there were two paths out, and one was,
Pardon you.
yeah, pardon me,
Not you, trolling.
two, the second was the Jewish folks, particularly the Persian Jews. Then they move up through the Balkans, and you get them up in what's that area just beside Russia?
Europe.
Yeah,
No.
Eastern Europe, Slovakia,
No,
Yugoslavia,
no.
Poland.
Yeah, there was a settlement there of Jewish folks, and what you see is that Jewish population move into America. The interesting thing tactically so it's like we got these two empires. Tactically, an interesting thing occurred back in Babylon, I think it was. They made a commitment to educate their boys, and what we see is particularly Ashkenazi Jewish folks doing exceedingly well in higher education and the sciences and a bunch of other areas. Politics, right into that. Now, Islam, I don't know yet. I haven't sort of done research, but I did come across a Jewish guy who said that Islam was started by the Jews, and it was a guy called Ibn Salam, Jewish fellow that was around in the time Abdul Ibn Salam, I think.
IBN.
IBN means son of, I think. IBN. Yeah. Anyway, this this dude, he suggested he was the one that was behind Islam. I thought, oh, geez, that's interesting. So what we've got is the Persian Empire on one side of the divide, and they own Islam and Judaism, and on the other side we've got the Roman Empire. And what we see a conflict between those sort of empires all through history. So it's an interesting study.
Oh, trolling, mute yourself.
Hey, who's that?
Trolling, his phone, he's in here on his phone, and whenever he gets a text, it vibrates and it makes a fucking noise.
Ah, right. Well, he's muted now, so. Yeah, so that's the basic premise of that book, and the thing is, it's I call it evil because I hold the view that empires are symbolic of the ego mind. They live like an ego, lies, treachery, taking an unequitable greed, an unequitable share of resources. And so what I'm saying...
You do know that's just human nature, right, Rob?
Well, yeah. I mean, that is it. However, it's a small portion of humans that are taking advantage of an extremely large population. And that's an injustice. That's wrong. That's why we had the revolutions across the planet. People started to wake up to the religious scams, but they weren't successful. Empires still survived.
Rob, can I just stop you a second there? Yes, Bina. They're pickled onion transformer snacks. You can build them into a car.
Yeah, nice.
Look up Golden Wonder Transform Snacks. Pickled onion.
But Chaz, I still think the critical problem to be solved is bursting the belief bubble. Because if you can do it successfully, my experience with
Rob, as I told you, the way you're going to do that is better education and not keeping areas where there's severe poverty and destabilization, where places, things like religion can thrive.
No, I disagree.
The only way you can kill religion is through attrition.
No. My experience with religious folks, I've noticed with them, there's some very, very common patterns of behaviour, which I think are dead giveaways. And these behaviour patterns only, I think...
Yeah, that's them, Bina.
Arsehole. Now, these behaviour patterns are consistent. It doesn't matter who they are or where they are intellectually. And
2 bags for 50, Bina. But I buy these from the cash and carry, which is like a sort of like wholesalers. So I just get a big box of them that normally I would sell in like a tuck shop. I mean, when you got the munchies, it's good to be able to own big boxes of crisps, really, isn't it?
Hey, Chaz, can you get a hold of some Christians or some Muslims, and I'll show you what I mean. They all behave exactly the same way. So when I saw that...
Rob, no, don't give me that. I know who I'm going to invite.
Yeah. Go ahead, bring them in. Now, before they come into the room, if it's going to be today, but here's what's going to happen. I'll take them to a point, and you'll see that point. There'll be a change in their demeanour. And
this is going to be comedy fucking gold.
Yeah. Now, they'll come to a point with that demeanour, and then they'll exhibit some very common behaviours that you see amongst all theists if you can get to this point. They could be the nicest person in the world, but they will still make personal attacks because they'll recognise a threat. They will they'll probably try and save face. They'll actually get quite nasty. So it's a Jekyll and Hyde personality on display. And then, if they can't seem to get any traction, they'll want to run out of the room. So I can demonstrate that, no drama. What I'd like to try is somehow locking him into the room to go through a bit more information. And whether that's done by being... See, I don't want to be nice. I don't want to be cordial or anything. I just want to be... Because to me, the disturbance is part of it. You have to put up with it.
Did you feel a strange disturbance in the force, did you, Rob?
Where? What? In what force? I'm not with you.
Rob, Star Wars.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If you haven't seen Star Wars, then go watch it.
When you see this behaviour, see it everywhere in Christian and atheist debates, if you haven't already know what I'm talking about.
Rob,
Yeah.
would you ever come to England and get high with me?
Nah, financially things are a bit tight, so I won't be visiting you.
Your book not selling as well as you thought, then?
What's that say again? No, it's not. No, it's not. That's the fact. Yeah, well, that's the way the cookie comes. I'm less perturbed by that. I mean, what I'm really motivated by is trying to crack this bursting of the belief bubbles.
Well, like I said, mate, I mean, you've got a lot of stuff that needs to change in the world fundamentally for that to be allowed to happen.
No, I disagree 100%. I'll just explain
Rob,
quickly.
without better education, yeah, to help people know when they're into nonsense and when to avoid it, yeah.
No,
you know, if people, Rob, the only way you're going to get rid of religion is you need to take away the people who support it, yeah. And that's one thing that education does. And then you have to take away the need for it. Religion is like a drug. It's no different to a drug in a way.
I disagree because
it doesn't matter whether you disagree or not, Rob. That's fact based in science.
I've seen these behaviours, and I'm telling you, I've seen them in intellectual people. They're the same behaviours. I'm sure that there's something in those behaviours that are the trigger to breaking this belief. I just haven't worked it out yet. But
Rob,
I'm sure
the only way you can... you can't just magically snap people out of religiosity. It's something that they have to get out of themselves, yeah?
And that's a valid point. I take that on board.
Think about it like an addict, yeah?
Hmm.
You can't force somebody into rehab, yeah? Because then it's almost guaranteed that they will relapse, yeah?
Hmm.
You have to get them to accept
truth.
Rehab. It has to be something that they come to. Okay, sometimes this is done with a bit of guilt tripping on behalf of the loved ones, but they have to make the decision to not be an addict. You can't make them decide not to be an addict.
Well, that's as far as we know. But is that 100% a guaranteed fact?
What?
That we can't.
Yeah, Rob, I know a few people on here who I spoke to less than 6 months to a year ago, yeah? And I haven't seen them for a while, yeah? And there's 2 of these people who have done this, and I've spoken to them both recently, and they've totally changed the way they see things, yeah? They've deconverted. And they didn't deconvert because I was in a hangout with them going, can you show me evidence for your God? No, then it is based on nothing but your assertion that there is one. And that did nothing. But they went off, they learned, they thought, they did some stuff, and then they came back and they're like, I've deconverted, not you've deconverted me. It's like when I've had people come to me questioning their faith.
But you'll be the trigger.
You're not the trigger, really. You are just a series of events. That's all. These people go away and then they rethink these things for a number of reasons. Sometimes it can be because of trauma. You know, like there's I think some graffiti on the wall in Auschwitz, written by one of the inmates, which says, you know, pretty much that because of what they witnessed there, that they don't believe that there's a God.
Ah, yeah, I remember that.
And
but that's still the same event. No matter what way you want to look at it, a person was faced with a reality that didn't match the belief.
And do you know what people get when they do that, Rob?
Yes.
Do you know what people get when they do that?
Cognitive dissonance.
Yes. And what is cognitive dissonance?
It's belief being confronting reality.
No, not quite. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort that human beings feel trying to hold two conflicting beliefs.
Gotcha.
And people who try and avoid that cognitive dissonance will either start just instantly rejecting anything. They'll go into denial or some other thing in order to avoid that cognitive dissonance. And that's one thing you've got to remember is these people who are having this religiosity to them, and you confront them with something that makes them question that religiosity, that's going to give them that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Hang on, this is an important point. I don't know whether I'm right here or not, but I kind of think that...
Careful now.
Yeah. I kind of think that...
Don't strain yourself.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'll wait. I'll let you go. I kind of think
that this recognition of a truth, and it has to be a genuine truth, by a person may occur subconsciously. The actual recognition. Because they're being presented, they seem to pick up early on in the story that you're presenting, before they've even been given any real information. It's sort of like a super brain at work that's saying, "Uh-oh, shit, this is going to be trouble for us."
Well, actually, Rob, there's something I can explain to you about this if you're willing to listen to it. The human brain is kind of like a brain of two parts. You've got the sort of like the primal parts of the brain, like the lizard brain and the amygdala and stuff like that, yeah? Which all of your sensory information goes into, yeah? And the thinking that comes from that is just quite reactionary. So sort of like the flight or fight reaction. And then the information is disseminated onto other areas of the brain, yeah? Which is information that we've learned, memory centers and things like that. But this lizard brain is highly, very good at processing information, yeah? It just doesn't have a very good wide set of measures for information to be that useful. And the funny thing is, when we lie, that uses a different part of our body than the amygdala. So when we hear a question, there is this thing called a micro-expression. It is the small, minute reaction your face makes because a signal comes from part of your amygdala just gets, I've heard something that's making me uncomfortable, yeah? Like the, oh shit, they're onto me, yeah? Before it then gets to the part of your brain which is responsible for where you can lie, and then that part of your brain just goes, play it cool, yeah? And for a brief split second, if you watch these things, and they've like done this using high resolution cameras, there is a TED talk about it as well. But for a brief second, you start to display one emotion before you go on to another one. And by able to be, observing these micro expressions can, help people detect even some of the most skilled liars, because it's very hard to control that autonomic reaction. It's like a flinch.
Yeah. Well, that's like
can't control a flinch.
Yeah, well, that's the same. The reaction behaviours when you actually get a religious person in against some information that they can't respond to, you get the flight-fight response. You get the all of those behaviours emerge. And the person can't control themselves. They can't. So I'm just saying.
Not. And part of that plays into because of that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. So the
Um,
question still becomes, can we use this information in some way to crack through?
no, the only thing you can do is to get them, because the problem is if you're dealing with, you know, one part of the brain recognizes that something must be true. Ergo, the thing that they currently hold to be true is false. Ergo, they either reject the first thing in order for the second to be true, or they reject the first thing in order to then recognize this, you know. And that's what's going on in their heads. They're that flight response is: do I deny this or do I fight this? Yeah. And the best thing to do is to get them to critically analyze, you know, what they believe first. And that just comes from just education, just talking about things, the sharing of ideas. To sit there and go, hey, here's some information you maybe didn't know. Now think about that information. What do you conclude from that? Yeah. You know, you can't really do this. You're wrong. The only way it'd work if you can educate people to be able to do that self-analysis, that Socraticism, to have that skeptic way of understanding, to, you know, be able to sit there and say, you know what, I might be wrong about this. You know, what if I was to say hypothetically I was wrong? You know, it's like I had somebody come to me who was starting to question their faith, yeah, in Christianity. And I said to him, how about this? How about for 1 week, 1 month, yeah, you just sort of live your life as to what you feel it would be like if you were an atheist, yeah? Spend a week thinking, if I was an atheist, what does that mean to me, yeah? And, you know, just asking questions of it, and asking questions of the things that you currently believe in, yeah, as if you didn't believe in them. You know, try arguing for the other side for a change, and, you know, walk a mile in that person's shoes. And then that's how they're going to then come to that. Like I said, when I stopped believing in God, it took the knowledge and education I had learned from, you know, informational TV shows and documentaries, and just from the, you know, the knowledge I had of the area that I lived in and the rich history that involves in it, and the you know, I've seen a lighthouse that was built by Romans. It's in my hometown. I've seen Roman swords, Roman headdresses. There's fuck tons of Roman artifacts in our local museum. There's a Roman painted house.
How does that break?
Because that was stuff to do with the Roman era. Jesus, there's all mentions of Romans in that, yeah? And my brain came to this conclusion: if I can see this stuff of Roman history and then I know to accept it because I can see it, I know that there were these daggers, I've seen the engravings on them, I know you can see similar uses of languages in other areas that date to the similar time period of these things. We know the Romans were in Britain. We've known that for a long old time. Because there's even sort of like artifacts in Rome which mention stuff to do with Britain, and coins and stuff from Britain in throughout parts of the Roman Empire. And obviously things like the legend of Boadicea and you know, stuff like that, and you know, her fighting the Romans in Britain. but this Jesus thing, can I see some evidence of this Jesus thing? Because I can see that shit. Can I see some shit like that of that? And then that starts the question asking. You know, you start asking questions of the world around you, specifically your worldview. Because, and as I said, with religion, it's just telling you a bunch of answers before you've asked the questions. And then, therefore, you don't need to ask the questions because you already have all the answers. And that's kind of similar to what part of the Dunning-Kruger effect says.
What's that?
People who lack the ability to assess how much of that subject they know. Because let's say you only knew 20% of modern psychology, yeah? Academia. You only knew 20% of it, yeah? When it came to you assessing how good you are in psychology, you would have no idea that you only know 20%. You only know 100% of what you know, yeah? And so therefore, you would be more inclined to overestimate your ability in that field. But whereas people who were more clued up about that subject tended to, because what they were doing is they were given the idea to predict how well they would do on a test, yeah? And the predictions from the people who knew the least were above what they actually scored, and the other end of the chart, the people who knew what they were talking about underestimated what they would gain on what they would get on the test.
So, sorry, what's the main point of that? I'm sort of not getting it quite. What's it showing us, that test?
That test is showing us that when you lack knowledge, yeah, you tend to overestimate how much knowledge that you have.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are more knowledgeable in the subject, you tend to be more critical. And so therefore, if you were given a test and asked to predict what you scored on the test, you would predict lower than what you actually will score.
But what value?
But you'd be a lot closer, because this was the thing, like the error between the sort of like the guesses from the lower end of the scoring spectrum were way higher, like way different to what they actually scored compared to those at the top. They actually underestimated themselves, yet was quite close to what they actually scored.
Mm. But what's the value of that study? What does it help us do or understand? Or
it understands, you know, how our brain works within terms of estimating our level of knowledge and self-assessment.
Yeah, but belief's not. But when I think of belief, right, I think of a balloon. You stick one prick in that balloon, and it's gone.
Yeah, I know, but you can't stick the prick in the balloon. They've got to prick themselves.
Yeah, I wish we could.
Because otherwise, all they're going to think of is you're a prick, and that's not going to help your cause.
Well, that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind as long as people aren't.
They're just going to ignore the fact that you've got a pen, and somehow that will work.
Well, you know, if it would work, it'd be lovely. I'd be very happy.
No. I'm saying it will work for them just to ignore you. So you've just then got an imaginary needle.
No.
Yeah, that's what will happen, Rob.
I want the real one. I'm looking for the real needle.
You want to be a real prick.
Well, actually, maybe it has something to do with that. When we get a question in, I'll play with that idea. I mean, I look at it this way, right? I accept that there'll be a disturbance. You know, the cognitive dissonance is unavoidable.
There'll be a disturbance in the force.
Yeah, but I think, well, I'm very confident that that person would end up in a better place. So if, you know, you've got to shake it up a bit, to me that's okay. But does it work, is the question. See, the thing about the Book of Daniel strategy is that it's very specific, and it forces the believer to defend probably indefensible material, right? Because they can't really match these 10 horns as well as, you know, history does. They just can't. It's impossible to do that. So you immediately put them into cognitive dissonance. But can you hold them there? And say, you know, because the response is going to be, no, that's not real, because, you know, you've got no way of justifying that. It's not in your Bible, so you can't. You obviously made that up out of your head, so it's not God's word. And just keep working that angle. Now, of course, at that point, you know, a lot of folks would want to run from the room, but the trick is, can you keep them in the room a bit longer? And just on logic, and just say, well, no, that's not correct, because you know, there'll be plenty of points of that you'll be able to say, well, no, there's no evidence for what you're saying, none whatsoever. Of course, there'll be all sorts of inventive stories, and probably a question that'll throw me off as well, but the objective I'd like to try for is just to keep them in the room for as long as possible. Keep them in that cognitive dissonance phase to see if anything transpires.
Let's see what transpires.
Hey? Sorry, I didn't get that one. Oh, what transpires? That there's an impact on that individual. I don't expect it in the session itself, but there's an impact on that person that makes them, you know, not believe. Burst their little bubbles. It's Chaz, it's just an experiment.
Well, I don't have a problem with it.
No. Well, if you know any Christians, get them in the room.
I'm trying to sort of like find some of the Christians I know.
Oh, look, this is a project, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't happen today or whenever it happens, but I honestly think that there's something in the cognitive dissonance phenomena that we should experiment a little with, just see what we can do with it. And sure, if it's the trigger event, like, you know, what the impact you had on other people, good enough. Doesn't matter if it takes them, you know, a year later to get out of it, but if it triggers it, then we can start, you know, using it more often. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it quits, I think. Lovely to see you all. I don't know what happens to the room if I close out, but good luck. See you all. I'll do that. I'll stop the broadcast first.